Welcome back, everyone. Today we're going to be taking a look at some of my personal favorite wargaming miniatures in the wargaming hobby, namely from Warhammer 40k and the like. As the average Black Templar enjoyer, some of you may have already guessed that these would be Chaplain miniatures. And congratulations, you are correct. We're going to be taking a look at some of Games Workshop's more recent Primaris options, and then we'll be moving back along the line for some older kits. So let's go ahead and just start off right off the bat. Here we have the Standalone Primaris Chaplain. This is a very nice miniature with the hood, cloak, tassels, and skull helmet. I may be changing the Crozius topper on this one personally once I start getting to some of these more recent models, as it's a little lackluster in comparison to others. But otherwise, this is quite a nice miniature. As usual, only the Ultramarines water slide transfers on there. I believe that there's a blank shoulder pad here. I'll go ahead and be adding some of those Black Templar iconography to it. Moving along, here we have our Primaris Chaplain on bike, being hit by my glare from my light. This is another very nice looking miniature, much better Crozius topper. I do enjoy the skull helmet on this one as well. I haven't worked on any of the Primaris Outrider bikes as of yet, so this will be very nice to work with. I do have some older Firstborn bikes that I worked on 15 plus years ago that I may be restoring, so I have a little bit of experience with these bike miniatures, but this one is very nice. So we'll be taking a look at that on the channel and painting it up in this new year. Next up, we have this reissue of this Space Marine Chaplain, this Firstborn Chaplain. This is also a very nice miniature as well. I had to go ahead and pick this one up. I wasn't able to pick it up when it was originally released from Games Workshop because I was taking a break from the hobby for quite some time. But once Games Workshop decided to re-release it, I decided to go ahead and pick it up. This one has a very nice Crozius topper, a very nice scenic base. Not too happy with it being on the smaller size base as opposed to the larger base that Space Marine miniatures are on as of late. As you can see, in comparison with the Primaris Chaplain, there's quite a size difference between the bases. Besides that, I may just keep it on that small base and use this as a display miniature because the sculpt on this is very nice. And another good thing about this is that blank shoulder pad is a separate piece. So if I'd like to use a water transfer or replace that shoulder pad altogether with one with molded detail, I have that option. So very glad to be able to pick this miniature up. Next, we have another very nice one that I picked up recently with the commemorative series Terminator Chaplain Torrentis, with more glare from my light. This is very nice as well. I'm a big fan of Terminator miniatures. If you saw my video on adding height to miniatures, you saw that I have a few Terminators boosted up with some cork bases and some magnetized arms, so this will go well with those. And here we have the miniature details. Another nice thing about this is there's the Crux Terminatus on both shoulder pads on this Terminator, so you don't have to worry about adding any chapter iconography, and this will fit with my Black Templars very nicely because the Crux Terminatus already looks similar to the Maltese Cross. And then having the Combi Flamer is also a nice option. I don't know how well this would fare with these options tabletop wise. We've got the Primaris miniatures and the Primaris on bike, which are essentially the go-to Chaplain models, but we have this option to paint up as well. So I'm very happy to have picked this up. And then moving on to some older miniatures. Here, first, of course, since we're looking at Black Templars and Chaplains, we've got Chaplain Grimaldus, or High Chaplain Grimaldus. This is the original metal sculpt. I've had this since it was originally released. I just went ahead and removed him from his original base and added a larger base to give him a bit more presence and to fit better with the new miniatures and new Marines on the larger base size. Now that this has been replaced with a larger Primaris sculpt, I'm going to have to go ahead and pick that up, but I'm going to go ahead and paint up the old Grimaldus and Retinue as well, just because these hold a lot of nostalgia for me. And of course they're chaplains, so gotta work on those. Next up, we have one of my personal favorites with this older Chaplain and Terminator armor. As you can see here, he's boosted up, given some height with a couple of layers of cork. I'll go ahead and link my video of how this was done, and it's extremely easy and extremely fast and very cheap as well. Below in the video description, I'll have that linked. This is an extremely nice sculpt. I've had it sitting in a blister for years and years. You'll see there's some slight discoloration around the gorget on this shoulder pad here and along the top or back of the Terminator hood. Once this is primed up and ready to paint, that'll all be covered up. I'll go ahead and paint it up and then varnish it so it gets all sealed in, so there's no further tarnishing or discoloration and I don't experience any issues with it later. I've already drilled out the gun barrel on it, which wasn't very easy to do with these pewter miniatures. So if you're planning on doing that and have some older pewter miniatures, just be kind of careful with it. This one sat in the blister for many years, so you can see that the Crozius handle there is not perfectly straight. I decided not to try to bend it back to shape. It's old, it's metal, I don't want it to be brittle and snap. Once it's painted up, I'm hoping that that's not very noticeable. It doesn't bother me too much either way. But there we have it. This is one of my favorite sculpts almost ever, I'd say. Next up, we've got an older miniature as well. This one's still new in the blister. Haven't opened it up yet. I'm not sure if I even should, but I guess I will. This is a preacher with chainsword. Now, this doesn't particularly go with the Black Templars army, but the aesthetic does fit. And I've seen old conversions of miniatures like this, given something similar to a Marine backpack and things like that, to work as the neophytes in Crusader squads. I'm not going to personally be doing that. I'm going to be going ahead and painting this up just as the preacher it's meant to be. And of course, as I said, I enjoy warrior priests, I enjoy chaplains, so I went ahead and picked this one up, and it's been sitting in its blister for quite some time. So let's go ahead and take it out, take a closer look at the sculpt. I'm hoping that there's not too much to clean up, because pewter miniatures are not the easiest things to work with. And we've got it almost free. There we go. And there it is. We can see that there's some flash, some extra pewter sticking out. I'll go ahead and clean that up. Oh, there's quite a bit actually. A lot of these older miniatures, especially when I first was joining the hobby, had a lot of this flash. Later, I found that some of these metal miniatures that I had picked up in the later 2000s had less flash on them, but that's not too much of an issue. Just snip them off and file it smooth. He does have quite the bend in his chainsword. I will be going ahead and trying to bend that back if I can, very, very slowly, because that's quite the warp. That's much more noticeable than the Crozius handle on the Terminator Chaplain, the metal Terminator Chaplain. But this is quite the nice miniature. I'm very glad to have picked this up. He's got his pistol holster, bag full of parchment, his bell around his neck, his preacher habit with hood back, and his little inquisitorial icon held forward. It's a very nice model though. I'm very happy to have picked it up. Has his tiny little base here. It says preacher on his slot. So we'll go ahead and paint that up this year. Then moving along, the last few. Oh, before I forget, we also have, let's move this out of the way. We have the Indominus Chaplain, still on sprue. This one I'll be working on to go along with the other Primaris Chaplains, the one on bike and the one with the cloak. And that'll be a bit of alternate between these on the tabletop. They're essentially identical miniatures stats-wise, but as they're chaplains, of course I had to have both. And this is a very nice sculpt. I haven't removed it from the sprue as of yet. Luckily, I can add some molded Templar iconography here or replace that shoulder pad completely. We've got some nice detail and spikes up here at the top, so I may not replace it. I may just add raised Maltese cross here to make it easier to paint the details instead of trying to freehand or use water slides, which I'm not the biggest fan of. And I may do a head swap on this. I'm not the biggest fan of this head on the miniature. It might be something that I use for a Crusader or a Sword Brethren later, and then I'll go ahead and probably try to find some of those Reaver helmets with the skull masks to replace that on here, because I feel like that will look very nice. And then of course we've got some of the Justiciar pieces, which I've got new on sprue set aside, so of course have the Chaplain in training as well. And then the last miniature I wanted to take a look at today was brought to my attention from a Midwinter Minis video where he did his Nuns with Guns squad. Here I went up ahead and picked up, I believe this is called Mother Teresa of the Calculated Cut, which is what I'm going to be calling a Sister Superior. And she's essentially a nun with a bionic eye, a power fist, and a plasma pistol, and traditionally dressed as a nun with her nun habit, her little old lady nun shoes, her hood, and I just think this is an incredible looking miniature. I've already enjoyed chaplains and preacher style miniatures, so a nun with a power fist, I couldn't say no. These are from Troublemaker games based out of the UK, I believe. I'll go ahead and leave a link to their page as well. They offer quite a range of these, a full squad of nuns with las guns, I believe, heavy weapons teams. I think they even have options for vehicle crews, which is interesting as well. So if you wanted to fully convert your Imperial Guard or Astra Militarum army into a full army of nuns with guns, you have that option. Or convert them, give them bolters, make them into Sisters of Battle, which are essentially nuns with guns but with power armor. That's a nice option as well. I couldn't resist when I saw a guy painting these up from Midwinter. So he's the one who inspired me to pick this up and brought these models to my attention at all. So I figured I'd show it off as well, because they're just such nice sculpts. They're literally just nuns with sci-fi weapons, so I couldn't say no. And there you have it. That's going to be some of the chaplains that I'm going to be working on in this new year. There's going to be a lot more Warhammer videos coming out on this channel. I have a series that I'm working on that's going to be coming towards the end of this month or the beginning of February, which will be a weekly or bi-weekly series focused on some Warhammer. And then, of course, I will be having some keyboard videos. I have some Switch reviews coming up, a few keyboard reviews coming up as well. And Gunpla, I'm always working on Gunpla as well. I'm working on a new build for fun for my personal collection, but I'll be doing a few Gunpla reviews in the coming weeks as well. So keep your eye on that. I know I have a lot of hobbies, and I know I have a lot of different interests that are touched upon on this channel. If you enjoy any of these, if you enjoy Warhammer 40k and wargaming, or you enjoy mechanical keyboards and custom mechanical keyboards, or you enjoy Gunpla and custom Gunpla, feel free to like and subscribe. That helps out the channel. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.